Hello and welcome to this Toppers edition by Vision IAS. Today we are joined by Dr. Tejas Sarda, who has achieved the milestone of clearing Civil Service Examination 2023. Having completed his MBBS in 2021 from Mumbai, he then decided to pursue the Civil Service Examination. And he has secured the rank of 128 this time, which he has cleared the examination twice in a row. Now we will talk with him about various challenges he has faced, his journey, and how he was able to achieve this important milestone. Congratulations on your remarkable journey, Tejas.
Thank you, sir.
So let's start with how you are feeling. Like you have secured the rank twice now. So is it different this time, the feeling that you are getting?
So last time I got into Indian Railway Management Services, but I was allotted into the reserve list. So it went kind of anonymous, and there was no euphoria or celebration. And because I was determined to prepare again, even I did not indulge much. But this time the feeling is, for obvious reason, different. There is a lot of joy at home, at family, friends, those who have persevered through me in this long journey. And even I am happy that I could finally achieve our collective dream.
Definitely. So what is the first reaction? What was your first reaction after you saw your name at 128th rank?
I asked my friend who gave me the good news that check karna spelling to barabar hai, roll number to sahi hai. That I did not think that I will get such good rank. I knew I would get some rank, but I was not able to believe that was the first reaction.
What have inspired you to pursue the civil service journey?
Sir, the simple or the one line answer would be the scale and the impact which this service can make. Working as a doctor, especially in the government sector, I could see there are certain challenges in not just our sector, the health sector, but overall our public space. And I always felt little limited by what I could contribute. And I thought there are only two ways to go about it. Either you become a civil servant or you become a politician. So I thought I am more suited to become a civil servant, sir. And this is such a good way that you are getting paid to do the good work that you always wanted to do.
Definitely. So once you completed your MBBS, so like take us to the journey from there to when you actually started the preparation. So what were the things that were coming to your mind about the preparation of civil service?
Sir, I will be very honest. I had been very good in my academics until I started to prepare for UPSC, and I tasted failure for the first time in the UPSC journey itself.
Okay.
So in the first attempt, while I was doing my internship, I did clear my prelims in the first go, but I could not clear the mains examination. Then the same thing happened when I wrote the exam again. And that is when I started to question whether I am the right person for this and not. I came to Delhi, then I worked upon my mistakes. I realized what were the deficiencies, and in the last two attempts I could get a rank in this exam, sir.
So as you talked about, like it took you, like this is your fourth attempt to clear this exam, right, at 128 rank. So what different do you do in terms of strategy for this attempt that made the difference?
So there were a lot of knowledge gaps, lot of notes gaps or the content gap in my preparation. I gradually filled it one by one. The time I took is simply because I was not aware that there was a knowledge gap in the first place until I came to Delhi. Second, I wrote a lot of tests for my optional this time. I would have liked to write even more tests for GS, but I must confess that I could not write much. And third thing would be, sir, I made micro notes just before to be read just before the examination. In fact, in between the 2 hours that we get between one paper in the morning and one in the afternoon. So these are the 2 notes, and I really worked for 3 months on these notes. And I think in the end, this is what counts. Of course, the efforts of the whole year counts, but the final push is something I really worked upon this time.
And it is very important.
Yes, sir.
So talking about the strategies, like as you mentioned, you had a specific strategy for your last attempt, and there are n number of strategies, and they may work out for somebody and they may not work out for somebody, right? But there are also some particular pitfalls that students who are just starting their preparation should avoid having in their strategy. So what could be these pitfalls?
So speaking from my personal experience, number one will be this hesitation or the resistance to write mock examinations or writing answer to the questions. because ultimately in the exam you have to write answers. Whatever knowledge that you have has to be shown to the examiner via these answers itself. So this registration has to be forcefully broken in by, I think the better way would be by entering into a test series. Second will be, sir, more revision rather than taking new content every time. Now these are things that everybody knows, but one simply aspirant simply cannot resist taking whatever नया market में क्या आया है वो हम ले लेते हैं, rather than revising the same stuff 3 times at least, because in the heat of the examination it is very difficult to remember otherwise. Sir, for mains, I think the third thing would be remembering what went wrong, trying to analyze it after coming out of the examination, keeping your analysis in sync with the marks which we get after the results come out, and then formulating a strategy. Okay, these are my strengths. I may not need to work very hard on these. These are my weaknesses. I have to work really hard on this. And then how you can go about it. There can be 10 different ways to go about it. You speak with some mentor. You join some other class which is specifically dedicated to that subject or that paper. You keep writing more tests of that subject or that paper, and you keep on analyzing, okay, 1 month has passed, whether I have made some progress or not. So learning from the mistakes and tracking it before the examination. Otherwise the shock will come after the examination. Okay, the results have shown that I was really not up to par in these papers. So the same thing can be done using the mock examinations. So these 3 things, I think, sir.
Right. And as you mentioned about content, resource, I tell that the market is full of resources, and a sea of resources that people can refer to. So how did you manage resources for various important subjects?
Sir, this is where I actually lagged behind, or I did not have the understanding in my initial attempts. This time I had basically consolidated whatever content I had into those micro notes which I had to refer just before the examination. And it was not a static process like this. I have made my permanent notes and nothing will be added or removed from this. This was a process which went on until the very last day. Something good has come in the newspaper, let us add it. Something good has come in a test series that I have just written, so let us add it. And something is a little bit of a redundant in the notes, so let us remove it. So in that sense,
So note making is a very important part for preparation.
yes, sir.
And what importance of note making that you can infer from your own experience for civil service preparation?
Sir, I think the notes have to be of such a nature that they are very personalized. I think I could even say only you should be able to make sense of these notes. They can be very crazy for a foreign individual, and these notes need to be of such nature that they are revisable at least within like a week before examination, and even in these 2 hours. So you can make separate notes or you can just highlight within those same notes, but they should be of nature that they are revisable. My initial problem was I have made such humongous notes that they were kind of an encyclopedia. So they were not revisable, and it gives a lot of anxiety to the aspirants that I have not been able to cover. The simple fact of getting a full revision done gives that boost of confidence to the aspirants before the examination. So these 2 things are, I think, a must for any aspirant, be it the physical notes on pen and paper or a digital notes. I preferred physical notes, sir, because ultimately I thought I have to write it in a pen and paper format. But digital notes are equally good if one can.
Definitely, and note making makes the whole process very smooth of revision also, right? But what were the important resources? Like we see students referring to n number of books for polity, n number of books for geography, right? So what were the resources that you used for making those notes?
Sir, it has been a very diverse set of resources. I would start with what I used from Vision IAS, the current affair magazines, monthly and PT 365, either of them. If I have read monthly, then perhaps not the PT or the mains 365, but I made good use of them to add going beyond the newspapers. Newspaper reading was a must every day, but there may be certain gaps in the reading using that. And second would be subject specific static notes. So for example, sir, in GS2 I used the notes of polity of M. Puri sir.
Okay.
For GS3 I used a program called as QEP by IAS Hub. For GS4 I used, again there is this faculty called as Piyush Kumar. I used his notes. I also use the notes of Smriti ma'am, who also teaches in Vision IAS. There is a society notes for GS1. So I took liberty of different sources, and what worked for me, I kept on improving that content. Having said so, sir, once I fixed that these are my resources, I really stuck to it. Only little bit additions here and there, and little bit deletions from the notes, but at least 3 revisions of whatever notes I have made was my aim, and I tried to reach close to it. Otherwise, whatever I have done is basically a waste of time, because I will not be able to recollect it in the.
Definitely, definitely. You talked about current affairs. So this is also a particular sector of UPSC preparation in which students are very confused, like how to approach current affairs. So you mentioned you read from newspaper and you added value through Vision IAS magazines as well as PT. So what is the approach to do that throughout the preparation? Like how should one approach in the initial state of the examination? Then how should they go for current affairs during prelims phase, and then after the for mains phase?
Yes, sir. So my approach, as I told, was two phase approach. One is reading newspaper daily. Initially, I used to read just Indian Express, but as I cleared mains and began preparation for interview, I added Times of India to the list. And I think it was a good decision. It is not a very common newspaper read by UPSC aspirant community. Second, I would keep on adding little bit snippets here and there of these newspapers into my notes. It is actually not possible that every time you add it into your physical notes. So I would just keep on taking snaps and make a folder out of a subject-wise folder of these snaps. And at one fine day, after 7 days or after 15 days, I would just extract value from these notes and add it to my final notes. And then I would delete those newspaper snaps. Even through that, some gaps in the current affairs did remain, and if unfortunately a question came, then you will be penalized. So I always refer to Vision IAS current affair magazines, the monthly magazines mostly. Two benefits there. Number one, revision. Whatever you have read through the newspaper will get revised through these notes in one place. And second, you will get to know even more facts, because these magazines are much more holistic than just 1 or 2 newspapers. So I would add value from these current affair magazines into my notes. The only thing is sometimes we are not able to revise whatever value we have extracted from these current affairs, and in the absence of that, it is basically fruitless to read and put in all these efforts. So my strategy was putting all whatever I have gained into my final notes or my micro notes, and only then I would get this relief that okay, now the job is done.
That is really a very good approach for current affairs. Like you have covered it very holistically, right? So now coming to prelims, okay, what was your strategies for prelims?
Sir, I think if I were to summarize, because I have successively cleared the prelims examination for 4 times since my first attempt. So I think I have a good understanding of how to do about it. There are 5 to 6 core subjects which are having a weightage of 60 to 70 questions. Polity, history, art and culture, science and tech, environment, economics. I think more or less they are the subjects. And if one has a very good static understanding of these subjects, and plus one is putting this much effort into the current affairs and then able to interlink it, the knowledge gap for the, at least for the prelims purposes, is gone. Like you are into that phase where the good aspirants are having only as much knowledge as you. Second part of the prelims, which is not applicable to mains, is developing that judgment of which question is to be attempted and which is to be left. And this is a very crucial aspect, because ultimately at the end of the day, all the aspirants come to that knowledge, all the serious aspirants should I say, come to that knowledge level, and the difference is only based upon the performance of these 2 hours. So I have a background in medicine. A lot of MCQ exams been given by me throughout my formative years. So I had this good judgment, I must confess. But even in spite of that, I give at least 5 to 10 mock tests, the Abhyas of Vision or some other classes, which are an open source test, and you get an understanding that where do I stand in the competition. I used to analyze these papers in very granular detail, like every question which I did not attempt. Why could I not attempt? Okay, was this a question which should have been left? Every question which I got wrong. So I used to analyze why did I made the mistake. Was it knowledge gap? Was it something a wrong memory on my part? Was it a silly mistake? I did not read the not in the question. Was it my lack of focus and anxiety? So all of this used to go in, and then I used to make a broad strategy that okay, these are my weak subjects. Let us work really hard upon it. And third would be, sir, that after doing these first two steps, knowledge, getting the knowledge, developing the temperament, developing the judgment. Third is dealing with the stress, because ultimately UPSC always throws some curveballs, like we saw in 2023 in both GS and CSAT. I had this faith that I am among the serious aspirants. So if something is difficult for me, it is difficult for everybody.
Definitely.
So let us not get frightened by that. In fact, when I do distinctly remember when the question paper came in my hand and I saw the change in the options, I started laughing in the examination. Okay, this is going to be a tough nut to crack, but it is going to be tough nut for everybody. So let us not get overwhelmed by it. Let us do our best. So this kind of stress handling, which is required not just in the prelims, in prelims, mains, and interview in all stages. This is the third ingredient, I think, for cracking the prelims exam, sir.
So one important point that you mentioned was developing a judgment of which question to leave. Now this is very important, and this comes with practice also, and this comes with hard work also. So how did you decide that this is the question I will leave, or this is the question I will attempt in prelims?
Yes, sir. This is actually a little bit tough to describe, this gut feeling or this subjective sense. I can give some guidelines or some markers which I used to follow. By trial and error, number one, I realized that I have a good accuracy. I do not make many silly mistakes. So when there is a tough paper, like last 2 years we have been seeing, my attempt never went above 80, but it also never went below 65 or 70. So I got into this ballpark of attempting between 75 to 85, which after trial and error I found out is giving me the best results. So that would be number one. You have to identify what are your strengths. Like in my case, I was having a good accuracy. So I restricted my number of attempts rather than going into the minus territory. Someone can have another strategy of attempting maximum number of questions, and even with less accuracy, they'll seal par through this cutoff. Second was a question I could eliminate two options and it is coming out to the last two options, or even if I'm able to eliminate one option, I will put in good significant amount of time in these questions, because these are the deciding questions. Like 30-35 questions are doable for a serious aspirant. At least 25 questions are doable in the first go itself. There are 20-25 questions which are really tough, and in the absence of luck you will not be able to do it. It is the deciding question, 45-40 questions, which will decide whether you are getting into that list or not. So I would spend considerable amount of time, effort, जितना मतलब दम लगा देना है वो सब इसी questions पे लगा देना है. And then at least with 2 rounds, I could not do more than 2 rounds. That was my strategy. In the second round, I would go on finalizing, okay, this is my answer, this is my answer. And with usually my gut feeling, I could make out, and I had a success rate of more than 50% in these questions. That always helped me to cross this magical number of 100, so that even if anything happens, UPSC cutoff is not going to go beyond that, at least in the last 4-5 years.
That is a very great strategy, right? Now coming to CSAT. Now CSAT has become very tricky these days.
Yes.
So how did you manage CSAT, especially 2023 CSAT?
Yes, sir. I have seen actually the change in my last 4 exams. So initially CSAT was very easy. Last year in 2023, they made an astronomical jump in the level of difficulty. Midway, I must confess, even I panicked for 2 minutes. Like, these are really tough questions, I'm not able to do it. Otherwise, I'm really good in mathematics and mental ability questions. But I had this faith on myself. Like, if me being a serious aspirant, I am not able to do it, most of the people will also not be able to do it. So how to crack it? The only way I could find was switching mid-paper to a comprehension section. So I spent good time on comprehension. There are, I think, 26-27 questions. Even if you get 22-23 correct, 70-80% of the job is done. And even with this level of difficulty, there are 10 to 15 questions in the mental ability mathematics section which were easier. So I just had to pick out these easy questions, attempt them without any silly mistakes, and I got sealed through. I did not attempt those difficult questions which I have no idea how to do it anyway. That would be one. So using this strategy, sir, basically the pivot from mathematics to comprehension, I scored 97, 98 something this year. Second thing is, I had this strict policy in both GS and CSAT of no ego solving the questions. Suppose I am stuck at one question and 2 minutes have passed. If I am giving any more time to this particular question, I might be stealing time from an easy question which might be at the end of my paper, and that would cost me dearly in clearing the cutoff for CSAT. So these two things I think saved me. And UPSC being unpredictable, we have to be there even going for the next time. The aspirant should be they should be ready that perhaps next time the comprehension will be difficult, and they will make it the mathematics section easier. So mid paper, this temperament that has to be there in UPSC prelims.
You have to be very dynamic while attempting the paper itself.
Yes, sir.
Right. So now, given the time that is left for prelims 2024, what advice would you give to those who are appearing this time for prelims?
Sir, I would say they have to consolidate whatever resources they have gathered. There is not much time to read vastly new things. Here and there, small new things you can read. Like for example, if you have been consistent with your newspapers, the current affairs magazines which are coming through, you can simply revise through them. That is not reading new in my opinion. But having said so, if there is something which you have not touched at all, then perhaps and it is not a part of prelims syllabus like society or internal security, you can safely ignore it. You can focus on your current whatever you have gathered until now, make at least 3 revisions of this, and give at least, I will say, 5 to 10 examinations, mock examination in that simulated environment of sitting there from 9:30 to 11:30 and forcing yourself to feel that heat of this pressure, heat of this examination, and writing it in exactly those conditions and get it evaluated. Evaluation is not a big deal, in fact, it's just prelims. So do it at least 5 to 10 times. Only after that you will get the feeling, you will get comfortable. In fact, whenever going a little bit sidetrack, whenever they ask me how did you handle the pressure, there is a good answer by Ricky Ponting, the famous Australian captain. He used to tell, what did you do differently? How did you absorb this pressure in the final matches of the highest stage World Cup? So he said, I did not do anything differently. We know that we are good. We just do what we always do with other team. So the pressure or the onus is on the other team that they are playing with us. So in the UPSC as well, you have to be able to soak that pressure by keep on revising and simulating that environment at least 5 to 10 times. After that, it is just another paper on another Sunday, and you will sail through. You will do what you do in your mocks.
You talked about stimulating that environment and giving mocks. So how did you do that for prelims?
Sir, I used to appear for some mock examination by standard classes like Vision IAS, Vajiram, or some other classes. And either I would go to the classrooms and sit there and write the exam, or I will just take the paper the next day and write it at my home or my hostel in the exact same environment. And I will write both GS and CSAT on the same day, because that too has an effect that what happened with many of my friends this year, the GS was a total curveball, so they got rattled by it, and that had a spillover over the CSAT, which they otherwise could have cleared. So it's better to simulate this in the same day, and it is to be done not just for prelims, for mains as well. In mains as well, we write 2 papers, and they are even more hectic in nature. So here you have to simulate it exactly like it is going to happen on that D-Day.
In fact, like we have also understood the importance of this simulation. We have started Abhyas exactly
Yes,
to
sir.
do that. So did you appear for that?
I did not appear on the same day, sir, but I solved this paper afterwards.
Okay.
And it was a good experience, I must say.
Okay. Now moving to the mains part of it. Answer writing is something that is very important. It is said by many toppers also, and we in the we faculties also talk about it, right? So if content is the king, then answer writing is the queen. So how did you address this particular aspect of preparation, answer writing for mains?
Sir, I joined a test series at Forum and I wrote as many papers as I could. Although, as I have already mentioned, I could have done it in a better way. For optional, I joined another test series for medical science. I wrote as many papers as I could for the optional, which helped me getting really good marks in my optional. But in GS, I could have done it in a better way. Having said so, sir, I also wrote many 1 hour tests or mini tests this time. I used to take 7 questions and used to try to write them in 1 hour. Because what happens sometimes is there is a huge inertia. Okay, I have not revised my syllabus. I am not yet ready to appear for this whole paper on the full syllabus for GS1 or GS2, 3, 4. and the people or aspirants tend to delay it. For 7 questions, somehow the resistance is not that much. We can sail through. There are only 7 questions, just 1 hour is going to go. So I did this time. Second thing is, I got my answer copies evaluated by my mentor. I was at IAS up to that is, I think, the second leg of the journey. That there are small mistakes that we as aspirants are committing, and if any good mentor, be it at Vision or some other good class, you are getting access to, and getting these small mistakes first diagnosed and then working on it and show the progress to this mentor, then this is the gradual progress that in answer writing you have to make. Otherwise, you will keep on repeating the same mistakes again and again, and you will kind of plateau in your marks at 80, 90, 90s, higher 90s range. To break that ceiling of 100, 110, 120s, you have to work on your small mistakes, get one mark, half mark extra in each question, and cumulatively that will lead to a boost of 15, 20 marks in the final exam.
And did you had a paper specific strategy for mains?
Yes, sir. Because every paper has a different feel. For example, in polity, it's all about articles, laws, various recommendations by committees, various quotes. In GS1 history, it's all about mapping or timelines. In geography, it's all about maps. And the feel of the answer also changes substantially depending upon what is the paper or the demand of the paper. In GS4, we are supposed to actually express how the ethical vocabulary and express what is really in our heart. We can also quote some thinkers, some philosophers in these papers. So you have to fine tune this strategy for each paper. Having said so, with practice it does come, sir, because initially it sounds very intimidating. How can one have these many different mindset for different papers? But with writing a lot of papers, this becomes part of our nature and it comes very easily.
Coming to essay,
Yes, sir.
what was your approach for preparation for essay?
Sir, I must give a disclaimer that I have not scored very well in essay, either this year or last year. I got a very average marks. So, but with this, I did find out a few things here and there. Like even in essay, the practice is paramount, because many times as aspirants, we read a lot but do not write a lot. And essay tests the writing skill to the highest level, because in GS still we can get through with not having good writing style and all. The writing style is predominantly tested in GS4 and much more than that in essay, because there is just one subject and we have to write 10 to 12 pages on it. So the flow of the language, the grammatical errors or the spelling mistakes, the coherent thoughts touching multiple dimensions, this all comes into picture in essay. And I do not think without writing at least 5 to 6 essays, this is like the bare minimum, you can go through the examination. There might be exceptions, but I have realized that I and those who are not being able to, others who are not being able to score high in essay, have to work hard on writing more and getting it evaluated again from the mentors. Because same thing, like I told for GS, you might be committing the same mistakes and not improving them, then you will kind of plateau in essays as well, sir.
How did you choose your essay? Because now choosing the essay is also becoming very crucial.
Yes, sir. So one simple formula I had was that after reading those 4 choices, whatever choice was first hit me or I was really comfortable with, that was my go-to option. Most of the times there was only one choice, one such choice, so the difficulty was not that much for me. This time there were 2 choices, in fact. In the section 1 there were philosophical essays. So I'm not able to recall what was the topic I wrote about. I think it was the game of thinking begins. It's like a chess, something like that. So, and there was another topic. So I took like 2-3 minutes and I took this gut feeling, based on gut feeling I took this call. This is something that I'm really comfortable with. Sometimes it also happens, sir, that initially we feel that this is the topic I want to write, but once you start brainstorming, you realize, okay, maybe I do not have very good content on this. It could be minimized or reduced using by doing more practice, but even in the worst case scenario, I think if you realize during brainstorming that, okay, I'm not very comfortable with this topic, still it is wise to choose that other topic and do the brainstorming on that topic. Because what happens is, if in the midway you are losing your flow, you are not able to generate more ideas, then your essay can tank big time and you will be penalized heavily by UPSC. In the second part, this time there were GS based essays, one on education, one on women. And I think this was mistake on my part that I did not practice a lot of GS based essay. So UPSC being unpredictable for the last 2-3 years kept on giving philosophical essay. This time they have again changed their pattern. So learning from my mistakes, let us try to be balanced in our preparation, writing all types of essays, having the practice of all types of essays, not just based upon trend of 1 or 2 years, but the last 7 to 8 years.
Okay. Now coming to another very important aspect of mains exam, that is optional. So how should an aspirant who is just starting his preparation should choose his optional or her optional?
Yes, sir. Optional is very crucial because it decides your marks to a great extent. The differential between optionals is way more than what is there in the GS part. So, initially, you should be able to spend at least 2 years in your optional, and you should love your optional. That is the most important thing, in my opinion. Second, and the secondary things will be what kind of coaching ecosystem is available for your optional, what kind of scores the top candidates using your optional are getting. But suppose you are stuck with, or you have chosen an optional which is not among the best performing option in the last 5 years. Say I come from medical science optional, and we simply do not see the 290s and 300s. Even in spite of that, I have been rewarded by my optional by getting good decent mark, 270 to 80s plus. So I'm happy because this is something which I have done for the last 5.5 years during my college. I'm really comfortable with it, and with consolidation of notes that I have made now, I can focus more on the GS using this optional. A third factor could perhaps be some kind of overlap between the GS part and the optional. These are, in my opinion, all secondary factors, sir. The first and foremost is, are you able to spend, are you able to love your optional, because you have to spend good amount of time with it. If you will love your optional, your option will love your back and give you a good rank. In the absence of that, it is going to be a tough nut to crack. You will have to perhaps change your optional as well.
You chose medical science and it is a very bulky optional.
Yes, sir.
And the GS preparation is also very bulky. So how did you manage your optional, especially medical science, vis-a-vis the GS preparation?
Sir, in the first attempt, when I had not really consolidated all the material, not made my notes, it became a very hectic journey between prelims and mains. And I got the results accordingly. I scored very poorly in my optional. So I learned from that. I made good notes. I took help from coaching, UPSC Medico, and they provided me notes. I joined a test series as well, which helped me to kind of accelerate this process of consolidating and getting into the updates of what is happening in the last 1 or 2 years in my optional. And once that was set, my optional has become now easier for me to consolidate, because the questions are not very difficult per se. In MBBS, we are tackled with much more difficult questions. It is just that all the 5.5 years of syllabus is cramped up into just 2 papers, and it is very, very vast. So having again those micro notes which you will be reading before exam, 1 or 2 days before exam, in between 2 papers, come in handy. And that micro notes could only be made after you have gone through the paper and consolidated whatever notes you have made. Having said so, sir, I am of the opinion that if you are not very comfortable with such a bulky optional, you should freely choose any other optional. Like many of my friends who are also doctors chose anthropology, psychology, because they are not comfortable with this, and they are also rewarded by UPSC. So it is a personalized equation that one has to figure out.
What advice will you give to somebody who's contemplating of choosing medical science for civil service mains?
Sir, my first advice would be, if you did not love what you were studying for the last 5.5 years in your MBBS, perhaps let us be more practical and not go with medical science, because it is going to take some time, some commitment from you. I think I have not studied it, but anthropology is comparatively a lesser syllabus and people score better in it. Having said so, if this is your passion, like I was very good in my studies during MBBS, if you are passionate about it, then your job is easier, because you are not having to learn a whole new subject, a whole new discipline, just for the sake of writing these 2 papers. Go with your medical science. Now there are even good ecosystem and coaching available for it. Second thing, with medical science as an optional, you will get that boost or that confidence that you are doing justice to your graduation. And in interview, they sometimes ask, why have you not chosen your optional, even though it is provided by UPSC? But I think these are secondary things. Again, I'll reiterate my point. You must love your optional.
Coming to interview stage now. So, what was your strategy towards interview?
Sir, I actually got lucky in my first interview in the sense that my interview was not in the initial part of the interview stage. I got the call in April, so I had a whole 3 months to prepare, and that gave me a good amount of time because interview requires a whole another skill set apart from prelims and mains to be imbibed in the aspirant, and that takes time. After all, it is called personality test, and personality cannot be changed overnight or even in 15 days, 20 days. It takes a lot of time to change your personality, learn those new skills for interview, and ideally an aspirant who has the confidence of clearing the mains should take a break of 10-15 days and straight away dive into the interview preparation. I worked on my weaknesses in the interview stage. I gave one or two mock interviews early in the preparation. I got the critical feedback. They were one of the worst interviews I have ever given, but they were also the best interviews in the sense I got the best feedback from them. So I had some kind of language barrier. I used to speak in a fast way. I used to give a little vague answer or beat around the bush. So these were some of the lacunae in my preparation. I worked upon them and I got rewarded. I got 187 the last time. This time, I again tried to fine tune my preparation. I had even given a mock interview at Vision IAS and incorporated the feedback. Uh, it is, I think, after giving 5 to 6 mocks, I get into that zone. Okay, this is how you will operate. This is how you will sit. This is how your eye contact will be, body language will be. This is how you will not get intimidated by this environment, wherein 5 people who are senior bureaucrats, each of whom have a work experience greater than your age, will be interviewing you. A little bit of intimidating environment, but I adapted myself in the sense that rather than taking it as a challenge, I took it as an opportunity. That after toiling so hard, I'm getting to interact with such esteemed people, which otherwise would not be available to me. So let us make the most out of it. These are overall our well wishers. They are here to pass us. It is just that we have to show them what are our strengths and show the willingness that these are my weaknesses, but I am willing to adapt and change myself. So these kind of mindset, the positive one, helped me to overcome that anxiety, sir. And that is how I think I got rewarded. This time I got 189. I was expecting a little bit more, but again,
189 is a good score,
yes, sir.
right? You talked about anxiety also for an interview. So, how did you manage the exam day or the interview day anxiety?
Yes, sir. Number one is getting good sleep. That kind of supercharges me and brings out the best in me. And number two is having this positive mindset that okay, rather than taking this question as an attack on me, because there is subtle poking around the aspirant to simply check whether the aspirant is able to take out this subtle digs or a little bit of pressure here and there. But we have to take it in our stride and take this as an opportunity that okay, let me show them what I am really. And I think any serious aspirant will have this balanced personality, balanced opinion, not very radical things to say, because this is a big no-no for interview. They get penalized very badly. So if I had this faith that I am the good aspirant, I just have to show my personality to them and not unnecessarily lie or make some deceit. And that is how I presented myself. It was actually a very good experience interacting with the panel, sir.
Now, coming to your personal insights about this preparation. So, what would be the biggest challenge that you faced throughout this preparation and how did you overcome it?
So that would be of consistency, because I am someone who once starts to study can sit those big hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, but I was not very good at consistency, like doing just 5 to 6 hours of study, but doing it on a daily basis without taking any breaks, any gaps, because life throws many challenges at you. Some family member may pass away, there may be a marriage function, there may be uh, an health emergency on your part, so things can get messy and get in way of your preparation. But in spite of that, I have observed that those of us who can really persevere and put in those basic minimum 5 to 6 hours of journey, so even those who are working in the private sector can crack this examination with that level of consistency. UPSC has taught me that consistency. Second would be, sir, continuously assessing ourselves. Like initially, only after the examination results came did I realize that okay, I am not doing so good in these. Later, now I realize that I can do that myself by giving mock examination, by giving some uh, papers, what prelims means. I can realize okay, this is where I'm bad at. So why wait for a failure to happen to you? Let us do that by ourselves. And third will be some mental part, because this journey is very long. Even those who make it in the first attempt have to put in 2 hours, 2 years of their life, one for the examination and one for the preparation. And that is a very long period of time. And unfortunately, if you cannot make it in your first go, then the years keep on piling up. Then there starts the societal pressure, expectations. So there are going to be mental challenges, ups and lows in your journey. So having a very good secure, very good support system who will pull you out of this hole and kind of shield you from all these external negativities and attacks is vital, absolutely vital in my opinion. I was lucky in the sense that my family, my mother, father, my younger brother, some of my colleagues used to kind of motivate me, because they saw what I was doing. It could be in the wrong direction, but at least the effort was there. So they kind of helped me to pull out of this negative journey, or the depression which we go through sometimes. And that has helped me big time in bouncing back from failures. So one has to have that good ecosystem. It could come from even friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, a good teacher, family, anyone, but one has to have it, sir.
So, as you mentioned, that there are phases when you feel low, when there is stress, there is anxiety, because this is a very tedious and long journey, right? So, what specific steps you took at those particular low phases of your preparation?
Sir, during my journey, I realized that the motivation or the inspiration which we have, motivation they say comes from within, inspiration is external. Either of them are temporary, in my opinion. There has to be a good system on your part, that even on the day that I'm not feeling good, I will put in my 6 hours. This is my bare minimum. That is kind of discipline that is required out of a UPSC aspirant. And as I told, that this consistency was something I was missing in, which when I looked at the other successful candidates, I realized it. Second thing is, sir, identifying our mistakes. In the medical lingo, we would say diagnosing it and then treating it. So that could be done way better by a mentor who has much more experience than you. It can also be done by a seasoned aspirant, but the mentor will make the life very easy. So that will help in getting out of this phase of depression. Okay, I have now realized this problem. Only thing I have to do is put in my hard work, so that the effort will be kept or the directed will be in the right direction. These will be the two things. And having this assurance from our support system that okay, we have faith in you, we see you putting in those hours. Sometimes there is a little bit of luck as well, which is not in your favor, but our time will come. This kind of assurances, honest assurances, not just flattery, honest assurances. If someone who you have full faith in, like I just told, my support system came from my family and my brother. So that also gives that initial push of coming out of depression or sluggishness or anxiety, sir.
So, did you had a plan B while preparing?
Sir, coming from MBBS background, I always knew that if this does not work out, I can always go back to my basics and either do post graduation or start practicing. But I have this strong opinion that initially, at least for the first and second attempt, you should not really rely on this plan B. You should go all in and burn that bridge of having that plan B. That should come into picture only when you have given your 100% and yet you are not seeing any progress, or you are stuck at some level. So maybe from your third or your maybe even second attempt, you can start preparing for your plan B. But at least one attempt should be there in which you have given your everything, and you can satisfactorily say, okay, in spite of that, I could not make it. It is fine. At least I did my 100%.
So, it is very important that when you are preparing, you give your 100% to this preparation.
Yes.
It is a very tough exam also, right? So, although you don't get time for hobbies and all other things for while preparing for civil service, right? Are there any hobbies that you developed during the examination, or you think these are the hobbies that will be very helpful for the preparation itself?
Sir, I'll beg to differ a little bit here because hobby is something which we anyhow find time.
Okay.
And I had this hobby of dancing and also reading. I used to read a lot of fiction and I used to watch a lot of fiction movies. These were the things which also I must add to that these are the things which keep you out of that negativity. I used to go for a run or do workouts. So these are the hobbies, and any which way uh, they will find time in your schedule if you are really efficient in time management. Plus, they have this additional benefit that are time spent coming out of depression and coming out of sluggishness or a preparation will go away in a click, and we could focus whatever time we have after pursuing these hobbies in a more productive way for studying. So I think every UPSC aspirant can afford to spend those 5 minutes, 10 minutes for pursuing this hobby. Maybe not just before the examination, 1 month before the examination, but this is a long process and you have to have something to work for yourself. It need not be a very elaborate one, taking a lot of time, but we can always do this jugaad of finding some kind of maneuvering here, sir.
Okay. So coming to our concluding questions, what advice you will give to the aspirant who has just started their UPSC preparation?
Uh, Sir, one is having the right expectations. When we are learning or starting this journey, we are kind of in high horses, and having the right expectation that okay, I will have to put in at least 2 years of my life and give my 100%. I will maybe have to sacrifice a lot of things which my peers, my colleagues will be enjoying. That kind of mindset has to be there. Then a realistic expectation that in spite of this, it can happen that I may have to go through the grind again. That is the second thing. And third is the willingness to learn, sir, because this is a long process. And only if we are curious, we love what we are learning, we can sustain this kind of thing. There, it is absolutely understandable that not everyone will love every subject, but you have to find some tricks, some maneuvers to fall in love with that subject. Actually, a good faculty makes the job very easy. Like I had a fear of economics because I come from medical background. I do not have much understanding. I did not even know how the markets work, the capital markets and the. But when I started to learn in the foundation class, the fear slowly went away, and I started to love this subject. And it has been a very good journey in that sense. So having love for your subjects, having this curiosity is this third thing which will sustain you through this journey. I think these are the three things I will give back to my young friends.
Thank you so much, Tejas, for guiding our aspirants for their preparation.
Thank you
and
so
we
much. Sir.
congratulate you once again for your success, and we hope you do great in your job and in serving our nation.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
It's been a privilege.
So, aspirants, we hope Dr. Tejas' journey was really insightful for you to understand what is really important for these preparations, what pitfalls and mistakes you should avoid, and how you have to ensure that you keep on putting the required effort that is required in this preparation. All the best from Vision IAS.